Sky Towers, a 20-minute game for 1 to 4 players, designed by Charles Ward for Exist Games. This is a free print and play game. I want to thank the designer for sending me an already assembled copy. These days I'm just so exhausted all the time that even building my own print and play games feels a little daunting, but this was built for me by the designer. If you don't have the privilege, then you can simply download the file and build your own copy. You just cut the cards, put them in sleeves, so you don't even have to glue them and mount them on cardboard. The game consists of a deck of cards plus 4 special scoring cards. We'll see what those do later. And you have 2 separate rule books, or I should say rule sheets. One with the main rules for multiplayer, plus a light solitaire version, plus another one with the solitaire version that's a little heavier, so to speak, because it includes an AI. I read the rule books or rule sheets for the solitaire versions and haven't played them because the light version without the AI seems a little too light, and the one with the AI, well, I don't want to have to mess. I don't want to have to deal with an AI for a game that lasts 15 minutes or so. Luckily enough, I had people I could play it with, in particular my daughters that are now 9 and 10, and also we had even a visitor, a niece that is visiting these days. She's 7, so I played with them, sometimes with 2 of them, sometimes with only 1 of them, sometimes with all 3 of them, so I was able to play all ranges of players between 2 and 4. So the main element of the game is this deck of cards representing sections of towers. They have a numerical value that goes between 1 and 10. The little number here tells you how many copies of each card are in the deck. So we have 10 cards with value of 3. Some cards will also have special powers or other indications described here, and they apply when the card is played, and usually it is self-explanatory. So you shuffle these cards and you give each player a hand of 5. The purpose is to collect cards, place cards that you play into your personal scoring pile. At the end of the game, each yellow kite that you have in your scoring pile is worth a point. You may also collect these cards if you fulfill the requirements, and these kites are also victory points. So at the end of the game, the player with the most kites in their scoring pile wins the game. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Give each player a hand of 5 cards, and you're ready to start the game. Players will alternate taking turns, and during a turn, a player takes 2 actions. They can be any combination of the following actions that are to play a card, to draw a card, or to pick up a tower and put the cards from that tower back into their hand. So to draw a card is self-explanatory. Draw a card. Done. To play a card, you play a card in front of you to start a tower or to continue a previous tower. And when you play a card is when the instructions described here may apply. For example, if you play a 4, you can play any number of 4s. A couple of interesting things. If you're playing with 2 players only, you can build 2 towers at the same time, just like so. If you're playing with 3 or 4 players, only 1 tower at a time per player. Also, you cannot play a card that matches the top of an incomplete tower belonging to the other player. If you're playing with 2 players, or with more players, you cannot play a card that matches the top of a card, the top of a tower of the player to your right and to your left. If, for example, we're playing with 3 players, this is my tower, this belongs to my niece, and this belongs to my daughter Louisa, then I cannot play a 3 or a 1 because they would match the top of another player's tower. As simple as that. You complete a tower when the total value of a tower is exactly 21. You cannot play a card if it exceeds 21. And so let's see, we got to 15, 18, 21. Booyah, I just completed that tower. Then I take all the cards in that tower and I put them in my scoring pile. Just like so. If you complete a tower matching one of these requirements, you also collect the bonus cards. If, for example, you complete a tower with exactly that structure, or made of only 3, 7, or made of only 1, 2, or 3 value cards, or a tower containing 4 4s or 4 5s, then you collect the corresponding card and it goes in your discard pile. I mean, your scoring pile. More points for you later. Awesome. So that's the general idea. Again, the other option is you take one of your incomplete towers, you pick it up, and you put all those cards in your hand, back into your hand, in case you want to then use them differently in later turns. That's the general idea. Very simple. You play until the deck has been exhausted. At that point, everybody gets an extra turn. In this last turn, everybody has 3 actions instead of the usual 2. At that point, the game is over. You count the 3 points, which are, again, yellow kites. The player with the highest score wins the game. So Sky Towers, I played it only with children, and I really believe that's the right constituency. The kind of people that still like or still find a nice, interesting, challenging adding numbers up to 21. That also includes me, but because I'm a child at heart. But I don't see this as a game that really has a lot of legs if you play it at game night with adult friends. Even as a light filler. It's just too light, I believe, for that. And just too luck-based and too restricted. Especially if you play with just one tower, there really isn't much that you can do if you don't get the right card. And again, you can think of strategies, but at least I'm gonna block you, but it's not good enough to block you if I'm not scoring, because preventing you from scoring is not good enough if I'm not scoring myself. So people will not do that actively, meaning that if you get blocked, you also know it's not part of some strategy that you could try to counteract, to prevent. It just happens that as other people were pursuing their interest, they blocked you, which is annoying. And if you start picking up your cards and doing different things, like pick up your tower, you just fall behind. Now, the experience also changes dramatically based on number of players, because it's still the same deck. It doesn't change. And that's with 4 players, you just get a fourth of the deck. With 2 players, you get half of the deck, which gives you more fun. You get to make more towers, you get more options and things like that. So especially with 4 players, to me, the game is it feels almost entirely luck-based, and it doesn't really feel that I have all that much to do. You maybe build a tower, maybe 2. Again, I don't want to diss it too much. There are a couple of interesting touches. Having those effects is fun. Trying to keep your hand of cards at 5. It's the perfect number because you have a lot of options, but there are some effects that make you discard if you're above 5. There are a couple of interesting fun effects. Playing a card that gives an effect to give another thing, etc, etc, etc. And sometimes, okay, there is a 3 there, so I cannot play a 3. Maybe I'll play a 2 and a 1. It's simple stuff that is the kind of stuff that's good enough in a light filler. But yet, even in a light filler, I like to have a little more agency as an adult player. But playing with kids, 7-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, they all enjoyed it. I could see maybe the 10-year-old was a little bit, I don't know, she also started thinking, I don't know, maybe I'd like to do more. But a 7-year-old, she was so excited. Also, we were patiently waiting for her to add the numbers in her head, but when she could make a tower, she would jump very high. But generally speaking, again, I see this mainly as a family game to play with children, and even better if the children play among themselves and you're doing something else. And hey, as a teaching aid, then if you want to help kids, you know, to add numbers together without realizing that they're doing math, I think this could be great. You know, if you are a teacher, either, you know, in a natural classroom, or you're homeschooling your kids, I think this could be a very valid teaching aid. Other than that, it's just a little too light and too luck based. a little too light, a little too luck-based for my personal taste, and so just a game that I think my kids will play for a little while, but not a game that I personally would choose to play when there are just other fillers out there that are a little more engaging.